Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director, City of Marshfield, and we're here talking about the school, and it's the school board candidates that I have today for the February 20th election that's going to take place, and this is the primary, and we have to narrow it down just one, and there are 7 candidates. And today I have Sam Steiner with me. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, like I said, this is our Get to Know program, and we had a chance to sit down with the other 6, and now it's your turn to be in the seat.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's learn more about you and tell the viewers about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Sam Steiner, and I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a parent educator, I was a speech pathologist for a while, and I am a school board member. And I have served for 6 years here in Marshfield. I've lived in Marshfield for 10 years. Prior to that, we were in Portland, Oregon for 17 years, where I literally did not pursue my career because our public education in Portland had started, the district had started chopping their budget far before it was nationally fashionable, and I really had to work hard to give our kids as well as their cohorts a rounded education. So I've cared deeply about children's welfare and their education for a long, long time. I was a pediatric therapist prior to that, so it's kids have always been my focus, not just my own, but really the kids of our community.
All right.
So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it. Well, let's get right into the series of questions. And you've already been running for 6 years. You're an incumbent. And why do you decide to throw your name in the hat again?
Well, I have to say, I really enjoyed the 6 years on the school board. I have learned so much. I learned so much about our community that really endeared me even more to what where we have chosen to call home now. And there's a lot of work to do. And I came in as a school board member in 2018. And I think like most school board members, you think you're going to do a whole lot and you're going to get it done because you've got the ideas and you're going to work on this. And it really is not how it works. It is, you're a member of a team. You are not an individual. You don't make decisions as an individual. You work together. And what I have found in most of the 6 years that I've been there, a group of collaborators that come from so many different sectors of our community that all come together and we share ideas, we work hard together, we represent different sectors, and we teach each other a whole lot. And that's how I have found it to be a very functional board. Our superintendent is a wonderful guide and a brilliant man that has really steered the ship very nicely and works extremely well with the board and the administration. And I've really enjoyed that. It's been wonderful to see that process. And I think there's more to do. I really want to continue and kind of push a few more things through to make it better.
Well, let's talk about, I don't want to say an issue, but maybe a project or something that motivates you to want to do this. Well, maybe there's something you haven't finished.
Precisely, yes. There is something that I haven't finished. I really believe strongly in the importance of collaboration and communication and engagement with all stakeholders. And when I first came in to the school board, there was a lot of work to do in terms of promoting communication. It needed to happen within the school board first. And I can say that I believe that we have made a ton of progress in communicating together. There was not a recent history of doing board workshops, but we've gotten that going, and that has been a marvelous experience I think for everyone on the board, just to have that time when we're not voting, we are making no decisions, but we're able to learn from each other and kind of brainstorm. And that's as far as we've gotten. I think there's a lot of work to do on community engagement, on continuing to provide information to the public in multiple manners so that the stakeholders I care the most about are the parents of the 40% of the kids that are living in economic disadvantage. We need to be able to reach them and communicate with them and meet their needs. And then I care a heck of a lot about those individuals who have no direct connection to the community. to the school. They're not direct consumers of school product. They have to understand that public schools and our public education is the linchpin for a healthy civic life, even if they haven't ever personally consumed anything that is offered from the district. We have to have it, and we need their support, and they need communication to rally behind us and celebrate our strengths and help us with our challenges.
All right. Well, thank you for those answers. Let's skip down the page, because you were talking about communications.
Yeah.
And I do have items in here about communications. Some you've already kind of answered, but we'll just kind of elaborate and see what else that you can mention on this. What I wanted to turn to is the PR, public relations of the school board itself.
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is it to get the information out to the public?
Yeah.
Is it the city administrative office? Is it the board? Is it a single board member? I guess, what's your view on really PR?
Okay, well, so I focused on that topic when I attended the Wisconsin Association of School Boards meeting about 2 weeks ago. And I learned a lot. Some was confirming for me in terms of things that I would like to be doing. But number one is that we're all responsible for PR. We all have to be able to represent our board and our district and what we're doing and the challenges we face in a constructive and positive manner. The communities that I think have the greatest success with that have a director of communications as part of the administration. That's what I have learned over the years. And it's impossible, I think, to be able to do all that needs to be done to provide community engagement opportunities and information to the public without somebody who's dedicated to that. So that's my goal. And again, I'm speaking as an individual.
Sure. No,
but there's some
great.
cohorts that are interested in it as well. So.
There's so many mediums out there to communicate, and groups, and what can be communicated, what can't be communicated. That's a difficult part.
Yes.
And that's probably where you're saying that a professional in the field would be able to communicate. But it can come down to, do you believe it can come down just to the basics of communicating, the things that teachers are doing? What do you think about some of that?
In terms of what the teachers do to help with
to help the kids,
or
just help the kids, or projects they may be doing that are just unique that you wouldn't know about.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of thing that I think grabs me when I read about a plant project or a science project that's happening in there. And I'm going to take an example from my son's schooling. This was in Portland, but they had this phenomenal project going, Positive Changes. And these little fifth graders, were working on activities in the school to make the school better. And they did a light bulb project. They did the math. They did the engineering, if you want to say research, to determine that our light bulbs needed to be changed to LED to save money and be more environmentally responsive. Yeah. And so they, with the help of custodians and ladders with adults on them, they did it. And they were able to collect data before and after and find that they made a positive change in their environment. So that kind of thing we want to see, we want to hear about. And I knew about it because my son was in it, but our community found out about it too.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing that I think if we can, and I think it also has to happen through volunteers. We have so many enthusiastic parents that want to do something, want to be involved with the school. We can really tap into that in terms of making our communications better. What are the highlights that are happening at Nasonville? Tell us about the art on the wall. One of our teachers has been regularly giving us those positives during public comment at our regular board meetings, and that's the flavor of what we need. Yep. We need to feel good about what we have because there's so much to feel good about.
Right.
But we got to get it out there.
Yep, you bet. All right. One last question on kind of that communications, and there might be circling back, but constituents, communicating with just maybe yourself, would you do that? Would you use conventional methods, face-to-face, online? What's your go-to?
I prefer face-to-face. As a communications specialist, I know that there's a lot of communication that we miss when we're not seeing each other. Even on a Zoom call, there's a lot of communication we miss. So I really prefer face-to-face. But phone calls, I really appreciate phone calls. Unfortunately, the climate that we're living in right now is one that does not afford email communication. We are subject to open records laws. And really and truly, I will say there have been some abuses of that, and that makes it impossible for us to be sharing and communicating to a great extent in print.
Yeah.
But I would love to be having a casual, coffee house with the school board, or coffee house with 4 of us, or something. And I have brought that up before, and I do have others that would like to be doing that as well. So I would like to be seeing something like that.
It's always time too. It's always a difficult part.
Yep.
But that's one of your goals, maybe to do if you get reelected into the school board. All right. Well, let's shift here to another part. Any issues that are facing the district right now that the school board should be addressing? I kind of picked out 2, but I know we had a referendum, and that was more on buildings. Yeah. But go ahead. What are they?
Do you mind if I link 3 of them?
Yes.
And call it one, because that's really what it is.
Okay.
It is related to projects that we need to do, major construction projects and renovation projects that we need to do, and that's related to funding. And so we really have to address both the building issues and the funding issues. And the funding issues don't come just from our community. It is from our state contribution, which frankly, and you probably heard the story before, and I'm sure most of the public knows about this, or I hope most of the public knows about this. In the mid-90s or early 90s, the state reorganized how it was going to provide local districts with funding. Basically, they took the year before, and that was the level that they were going to work with. Now, Marshfield School District has a pretty consistent history, I would say a very consistent history, of fiscal responsibility and well-managed fiscal finances. So we got dinged because we had been so responsible. Other districts that had debt load and all sorts of things that gave them, because of that data point that the state chose to take, a greater advantage than us. And because of our financial prudence, we get less than a lot of other equivalent schools because we did a good job. There is some talk at the state legislative level of redressing that, and it's high time. And that's sort of related to also community engagement. If we have community engagement, we have people seeing what we have at the schools, seeing what's going on, coming into the schools, say for a community education program, which we've actually initiated, and I'm very excited about that. We would have more buy-in, I think, and an understanding of the needs as well as the strengths of the school. So it's funding, it's building needs, and it's in community engagement, and they all go together. They all go together.
All right.
Excuse me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. We're going to take a short break, and I want to make sure that everyone tunes back in to us here for the second half, and we'll talk about experiences that you have. You were a speech pathologist.
I was a pediatric speech pathologist.
Okay, and we'll talk about that, and we will talk about the grades that the kids get. They're up there pretty high, not just grades, but is in state level. So we want to talk about how you continue that and make it grow. So tune back in, and we'll be back shortly. All right, welcome back to our program with Sam Steiner, and we're going to go back into talking a little bit about experiences that you have. And just before I left, I talked about your career as a speech pathologist. Excuse me.
I could help with that.
There you go. And what has that done to help you prepare to be on a school board?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So I trained as a pediatric speech pathologist, largely because of the prevalence of dyslexia in my own family, and that I saw how that really disrupted a couple of individuals in my family because of that difficulty and the lack of diagnosis early enough to offer the proper services. I love languages. I love accents. I really enjoyed, so speech pathology made sense for me. I did pre-med, and I got very disillusioned by the people I was surrounded by and didn't want to be with them anymore. So speech pathology seemed to fit, and I'm a medical speech pathologist. But I do work with kids going into schools because we transitioned kids out of the hospital into schools. So that experience just reinforced my concern and care about children's well-being. I learned a lot about development. I learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work. I felt that though my clinical work as a speech pathologist was sort of just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what I felt these kids needed. I did work in an inner city hospital. I worked with a lot of kids living in poverty or below the poverty line, and I saw lots of needs. And one of the big ones that I felt I could have an impact on was helping parents and parent education. I felt that was the missing piece in a lot of the cases that I had. You couldn't bill for parent education at the time. Things have changed a little bit, but that's really been my focus. And so since we moved to Marshfield, I got a graduate certificate in infant, early childhood, and family mental health. Again, reinforced the importance of us cherishing our parents. The founder of the infant mental health world is a psychologist named John Bowlby, and his line that I love is, if a society cares about children, we must cherish the parents. So I extrapolate that to our teachers, and not just our parents. We need to cherish those who are caring for and teaching our kids if we really care about our kids. So that's one piece. Then secondly, I just feel, I recognize the impact of influencing what's happening with kids' experiences early on, how that can really set the child and set our society on a track towards success and healthy civic life. So that's how speech pathology affected what I do here and why I like being involved with making some changes to help promote that.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about behaviors of school board officials and the public, but we'll put it towards school board this time. But
okay.
I guess what I wanted to do on this question and ask you is, how should they behave when there might be some criticism out there? Should it come out in a board meeting, or should it be a one-on-one conversation? I guess, what are your thoughts, and what do you do when that happens to you?
So you're saying when we disagree together as
I would
a board,
say both.
or
I think it can be both, especially the no, even that no vote question I have here. We could lump that all together.
Yeah.
If your colleague, I'll call colleague or board member, has voted no and you wanted yes, what do you do? Is it the time to argue, or is it the time to be civil?
Well, no, you have to be civil, and I can offer. So I'll start with the board, if that's okay, because I have loads of examples of how we had to handle that, because that's what a functional board does. I know there's been criticism of the board from when I first started to about 4 years ago, that I want to say that maybe we looked a little too vanilla, because we kind of always voted yes on almost everything. We were unanimous most of the time. That is because we worked hard in committees, we disagreed a lot, we shared those disagreements, and in any point of conflict, you really have to talk, you brainstorm together, you try to understand, you have to understand what your opponent's side is, and then come to a compromise. We should never feel 100%. satisfied when there's a conflict. You hope for maybe 50, maybe 75% of what you want is there, but that's what we do. And so if someone votes no, historically I've always known why they were voting no. Either we had had discussion in a committee situation or at the regular board meeting. I mean, and there are many examples of where we disagreed. We have, if someone puts forth a motion, we have a discussion and then we vote. And so I always, most of the time, know why someone's voted no. And if I don't know, I like to talk to them afterwards and say, hey, what's the deal? I maybe I misunderstood something, but please help me understand. So maybe I will vote yes the next time this comes up. So that's kind of how the board works. With the community, it just requires listening. I mean, I've gotten phone calls where people were very angry, very upset about something that had happened. And I just like to listen and understand what's going on and make sure that I understand. I ask a lot of questions, but I listen to what the person that is calling has brought forth. And you have to educate also about the process. I think a lot of the public thinks that by calling one school board member they're going to get what they want, and that's just not how we operate. But empathize with the person's concern and try to understand it, and then you bring it to the board or you bring it to our superintendent. Typically I would go to our board president and our superintendent if something comes up that I'd say I'll get back to you to the constituent that's calling. Constituent, we don't really have constituents, but the community member, and then we try to work on it that way. We are a conduit for getting issues brought before the board and the district administration.
Okay. Well, that kind of answers that one question about the roles of the superintendent, the board, and the board president. Really, there's a way, but you're open to anyone calling you.
Yeah.
That's a parent or even I guess the media may call you, and you.
I will say that I'm a little bit less disclosing to the media.
Okay,
I've had some interesting media experiences, not here, but I am always cautious when I speak to the media. Sorry.
No, and that's that's fair
Yeah.
and very normal. No problem. And I did talk about the opinions, and I think that was important of differences of opinions that you talk about. Let's talk about those scores. The kids are doing well. 25%, right?
In some areas,
in some areas? Okay.
Yeah. We're doing. No, generally speaking, we are doing well. We can always improve. I mean, our kids of the districts. I think I gave you during the break. We talked about it. Yeah, that we've got. I think it's around 400 districts or 450 districts, between 400 and 450 districts in the state, and we're ranked 50th in terms of our how our kids are doing. So that's fantastic. That's
what does
very
the
nice.
board can do to even improve that more? Is that something the board does, or the teachers, or both?
Well, it's both. It's both. Yeah. I mean, we're always striving to improve. We're always looking at data. Our assessments. We do have a cadre of assessments that helps us see where there are some holes, and then our curriculum committee works with our teachers and our director of curriculum and instruction, Kim Diambo, to make sure that we're able to address ways to improve.
Okay.
Yeah. Particularly with reading right now, we made some major, this has been a statewide issue, I mean, a national issue, and I think it's good that we're making some changes. We had already done a lot of those changes, actually. I find, in terms of curriculum, I feel, just because I've experienced lots of different districts, I've been around, to know that we, generally speaking, have been ahead of the game in terms of national trends in terms of instruction. It seems to me that we've already got it in place a lot of the time.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, preparing kids, I call them kids, but students, kids, to be good citizens and be able to get jobs out in the community, either right after graduation or going on to school. Now, I think earlier in the program we talked about some of the things that the teachers are doing and programs are at the school. As I'm understanding, you support things that are out there for getting involved with local businesses, the school, and the students, and learning, and even besides the general math, what we used to call shop. I don't think it's called that anymore.
Our CTE program. That's an area that honestly really attracted me to this, to the state now. I mean, the decision to move wasn't entirely mine, but we really wanted to be in a place where our kids could get good public education. And Wisconsin has a history, the Wisconsin idea, that has been around for a long time in making sure that they are training their workforce. They're training their well, not just their workforce. They're training their community to be intelligent, discerning, caring, wise voters and participants in all of the activities that they do, raising kids, teaching the school, all of that. I think that that we have a history of strong public education, pre-K through university. So I was going to say that we need to keep our kids prepared for any role that they may want to choose in life. And that's what I really love about the breadth of stellar programs that we have. Our vocational technical, our CTE program, I should say, is very, very strong. And we have had, I mean, just to see what the kids are doing and what they're able to achieve. We also have a certificate program. Students can get, during summer school or during the regular year, certificates in, say, word processing or another, just a skill that they can use to market themselves and to be better prepared even if they're not headed to college. And I really should say that college isn't the be-all end-all for every student at all. We really need to be able to be proud of, and we are proud of our students that are well prepared to step into a career, a wide range of careers. And opportunities that we offer, and my sons, two of my 4 children have been through the Marshfield schools from middle school. Now that wasn't public school, but through high school. And I will say that the opportunities are just amazing to be able to intern at some of the local businesses that really gives them a feel for, yeah, I'm in on this, or no, I'm not, but I really learned a lot, and be able to be prepared.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not just for college. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, this is the chance that you can tell the voters why you're the candidate for them to check you off when they go to the polls, because absentee also starts here shortly. And I'll go ahead and you can I'll let the citizens know.
Okay. Well, I think that the first thing I need to say is that I'm not the only person to check. I'm one of the folks that I hope will get the box checked. It's always a team, and there's 3 slots available. So I hope that we can all find a way to find good folks to be in those roles on the school board. I love being on the school board. I really thank the community for giving me this opportunity to serve for 6 years, and I'd love to serve for another 6 years. I think it's a role that I think I do well in. I am not conflict averse, and not that we have conflict all the time, but we do have a fair amount of that occasionally. And I just believe in children. I believe in the infinite power of our next generation to get the solutions out there in society that we haven't been able to figure out. But it starts with a strong base. I mean, it starts with infants, actually, but I won't go into that. We're not serving infants just yet. But I thank you so much for considering me and make me one of the people that you check off.
Alrighty, well, you're welcome. Thank you all for watching our program, Get to Know. We have the candidates that we had interview. I had Sam Steiner here with me now, and she is one of the 7, and we lose only 1 in this election. So get out there and vote. Thanks for joining me.